Okay. All right. So once again, welcome to the summer deepening work of the solstice. This is an important turnover time where we have the longest day of the year and the shortest night of the year. So it's a wonderful time to practice Qigong. The solstice is actually coming to its peak at 2:44 Pacific time. But I know that we're not all on the East Coast. So would you go ahead and just put in the chat where you're tuning in from, and also are you still sheltering in place? So just go ahead and put that in the chat. Let's see who we have. I know like I said, we have probably close to 40 people today. So, oh, and I know we even have somebody coming in. Here's Liz from London. Great. Okay, so go ahead and put in the chat where you're coming from. Good, great. So a lot of you are still sheltering in place. Emeryville, Richmond, Novato, Oakland, San Mateo, East Coast, yes, in place, Quebec, Connecticut, Napa, Santa Rosa, Berkeley, Big Island of Hawaii, Fairfax, Reno, Nevada, London, yay, Liz, so good to see you, Chi sister. Okay, good. Bellevue, Washington, cool. And so I will just go ahead and start some of the information that I wanted to give you. What I was saying before I started the recording is that normally I would teach some of these practices over the course of a weekend or even a whole week retreat. Some of you actually have done that week-long in-person retreat with me. And so trying to consolidate something that I feel will be useful in an hour and a half has been a challenge. So I wrote myself some notes so that I could be sure to cover some of the basics about summer before we begin to move. So first of all, for those of you that don't know, who don't have a Qigong practice or not that familiar with the Chinese systems, there's basically 5 seasons that they talk about in Chinese medicine, and those seasons are connected to organs and animals and emotions and a whole lot of different associations. Summer is the season of the heart, so it's the home to your laughter and to your joy. It's a time when you can experience your power in ways that are both vulnerable and strong. And I sort of think of those as the same thing. I remember when I was 18, I remember writing in my journal, my vulnerability is my strength. And when we can kind of embrace the ways in which vulnerability and strength go together, we're really living in the heart space of this season. So any seeds that you planted in the spring, especially those of you who were at the spring deepening work that we did, the spring webinar that we did, we worked some with the intentions that you were birthing at that time. Some of those things will be coming to fruition around now. It's a time of flowering, heat and stillness, and a time to allow the full expansion of who you really are to radiate from your heart. The element that's associated with the summer is fire. So it's really, you can think of that as connecting to the heat of your passion and the things that matter the most to you. And it's the time of basically maturation and expression, right? So again, it's this blossoming time that happens right now. The lotus is a metaphor for this season, and there's a form called the lotus. I'll be drawing some from that today. And the lotus is a very spiritual symbol in a lot of different Asian cultures. And a lot of that is because it draws energy from the underground, from sort of that swampy energy that the lotus comes out of in a pond. It transposes, or it's nourished by that swamp, or in this case, we could think of it as like what's underneath the surface, what's in the unconscious coming to the surface, and then it transposes into this beautiful, elegant energy that it wafts across the lake or the pond where it lives. So in the same way, we're called at this time to do the work of transforming hardships and stagnation from the past into pure essential chi to open up the heart of your true being. I had a teacher, her name is Kalel Quinn, and she used to talk about flower, breaking it down to a word of flower. And she wrote that the flower or flower knows how to flow gracefully within the seasons of its destiny. And so I think of that as to flow into the reality of all of our experiences and to translate stress into joy. And that's the work that's ahead of us or inside of us as we're in the summer season. In Western culture, summer solstice is the beginning of summer. In Eastern culture, it's really, or at least in Chinese systems, it's considered the peak of summer. So it's a turnover point right where we have the longest day of the year. Your heart is also the home to impatience and hatred. Montauk Chia, who created the healing Tao system, says when we move energy through the heart, using Qi through the heart, we can transform impatience and hatred into love and compassion. So when we have an excess of fire in the heart, we might end up feeling really restless. We might end up having insomnia or sleep disturbances, or we might find that emotions that come up feel blocked, and it blocks our ability to care. Let's see, what else did I write? I wrote that when it's in full flower, the heart is the home to your joy. And when you embrace this stage of the cycle of seasons, you can flow into the world of possibility, synchronicity, where you find yourself in the right place at the right time. There's a taste that's associated with the season, which is bitter. So I'm not going to spend time talking about foods here today, but the foods that are associated with bitter are bitter greens, endive, mustards. You can say kale and spinach as well, although those aren't super bitter. Swiss chard. And the other part about the heart, of course, is the circulatory system. So you want as much as you can to do things that get your blood moving. Qigong is great. Taking walks in nature is great. Forest bathing for those of you who like to do that, or just generally getting yourself to move in some way or another. And the activities that are associated with this time of year are tending, feeding, watering, and some of it is metaphors. So empowerment, enjoyment, taking risks and telling the truth, which feels like is really what's emerging culturally here right now as we're looking to leadership from Black Lives Matter and so forth, of all of this social justice coming forward. This is all about risking, telling the truth, and being able to stay present with that. The other piece about the summer is creating beauty. And the way of joy focus for summer. And just so, well, I didn't really, well, I'll talk about me in a minute, but the way of joy focus for the summer is expressing your passion, living your mastery, and flowering into the full expression of your joy. So I am Vicky Della Gioia, as you all know probably. I created something called the Way of Joy spiritual fitness system. And the Way of Joy system, I want to just acknowledge right here that I am a white woman standing here on a lonely land, and that for me, when I think about what does it mean for me as a white person teaching these old Chinese practices, aside from the fact that from the very first time I encountered Tai Chi Chuan back when I was a kid, it felt like coming home. It felt very familiar. So I felt this deep inner connection to it. But what I would say is that Qigong is based in Taoism, and Taoism is very inclusive. It really draws in, and it's adapting to different people in different ways. And so I think about what I do is I've synthesized from many different teachers that I've had the privilege of working with, and I've created this system and interpreted what these meanings, these Taoist basic tenets have meant for me, and then share that with people in the hope that it's helpful. So hopefully I'm not appropriating, but what I'm doing is trying to contribute back to the general philosophy that is Tao, which is really, like I said, inclusive about who are you, how does it feed you, how does it bring you forward as an individual and connect you at the same time with the greater whole. Okay, so enough about me. Let's set our intention. What I'd like you to do is just put in the chat real quickly what energy is emerging that you want to embrace this summer. So if you did the work of the spring, maybe it's something that's a continuation of that, or maybe there's something new coming forward. But what feels like it's beginning to flower inside of you? What's emerging inside of you? What is it that you want to embrace in this season as we use this turning point in summer? We're in the sort of the full heat of summer, not necessarily with the weather, but certainly with the energetics of it. So go ahead and put in the chat, and I'll look for that. Healing and energizing, nice. Who else? Join with others with social justice, expressing anger, allowance of greater self-expression, creativity, trusting what you need to do in your heart's work, patience and joy, creativity, Emerging is the integration of what you're called to do personally and professionally. Beautiful, Betty Ann. A deep sense of connection and belonging, intimate partnership, and joy and fascination with life. That's a lot of good heart, Christina. Becoming visible with your message, CJ, so important, your message of forgiveness. Integration and sharing beliefs, braver. Self-expression, vocal expression, more compassion and joy. Loving and healing, a comedic voice, and Rosie, you do that so well. Joy, listening to your soul and advocating for goodness in the world. Heart filling, a new beginning, embracing, accepting, inner expression, emerging the need to act in the movement to address racial inequities. Okay, good. Thank you all. And if you didn't write something, that's absolutely fine. But it is helpful if you can just sort of ground and know what you're doing. The more we bring our own self and what we want into the situation, integration of body and mind, I see you, Doherty, the more we can actually benefit from some of these. So some of it is, you know, there's these health practices, and so Qigong is often taught, especially in this country, as medical Qigong. But I'm also very interested in how do we use it in terms of our emotions and also in terms of how we can empower ourselves to walk our talk. So let's go ahead and begin to move. So go ahead and stand up. And I'm hoping by now Patricia has been able to hear. And I'm just looking quickly at the other chats that I missed: self-care, peer counseling, in context of social movement, being of service, integration of mind and body, and holding yourself close with joy. Good, Claudia. Okay, so we're gonna stand with the feet apart, hands on the hips, and let's begin to circle those hips all the way around. So we're just warming up. Those of you who are new to, at least to me, if not to Qigong, I know several of you do Qigong with somebody who studied with me. So it's wonderful to have many generations of the way of joy here. What I'd like to do is to have a sense that your hips, that you have a sense that the hips are actually rolling over the tops of your thighs, so that you have a full circle. You want to make as full a circle as you can. And of course, this is super helpful for those of us who are sitting and doing a lot of work at the computer, or particularly those of us sheltering in place. There's a lot of sitting that I think many of us end up doing. If you can get up every now and then and do this, it's super helpful physically. Let's go around the other direction. And on another level, on an energetic level, doing this movement helps to integrate information as it comes in. So whether you're listening and drawing in information, culturally or in your own family or anything else, this is a great way to just start to let that process through the lower abdomen. And let's change directions again. And the other direction. Good. Let's bring the feet to get about hips distance apart, not quite together, but parallel, hip distance apart. Let's circle the shoulders all the way around. Nice full circle. And as you do this movement, breathe deeply. Okay, so those of you who worked with it, well, I would like you to practice 6-direction breathing right away. Again, if you're new to the work that I do, 6-direction breathing means basically letting your abdomen really fill up with air. Inhale and exhale, almost like a balloon as you inhale and exhale, just going in all directions, forward, back, up, down, side to side. And then hands on the shoulders, circle those elbows all the way around, full circle. And as you do this movement, you continue to move your belly and full breath. So this helps impact the vagus nerve. It helps that transformation of going from stress into ease, and allowing your heart to just expand, right? So as you do your elbows, your shoulder blades coming together and opening apart behind your back, help activate the backbone of the heart, or we'll talk about this in a little bit, the cobra and the lamb. Okay, then we're going to do a backstroke, one arm back and then the other. And you're going to follow your hand with your eyes, so that your eyes are moving inside of your own eye sockets. And this helps to relax and the focusing muscles of the eyes, the cilia muscles of the eyes. You want to just have a sense here of a lot of freedom in your shoulder. And if this is impinged, if you can't quite do this, you can do something smaller. So please do what feels right for you. If you're unable to stand, if you're seated or in a wheelchair, then you just adapt it however you want. And make sure that you stay, everybody, whether you're seated or standing, with your sits bones connected down to your heels. And then bring your arms back behind you, lace your fingers, squeeze the shoulders, and lift the chest way, way up. And then palms forward, upper back comes back, and we're gonna turn from side to side. And as you do, relax your jaw, relax the space between your eyebrows, and then stay over on one side and move your hands around any way you want to, and just stretch across that back. And then same thing on the other side, around. And then bring your hands to your legs, flat back position, pull your belly button up towards your spine and just round your back. Open up the space between your shoulders and then release, lift your chin and chest up. And then round your back and then arch. And round, and then arch. Now, if you're seated in a chair, you can do this a little higher. You go to whatever level feels right for your back. If you can, I'd like you to place your thumbs on the insides of your legs. And again, if you're seated, you can do this up here. And we're going to drop one shoulder down, look back over the opposite shoulder. And then change. So a good stretch across your back. And then change, and then change. And then come to center, arms come all the way up, out to the sides, take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, bring your elbows together, lift your chest up, and inhale, extend out. So exhale, squeeze, and inhale, extend out. And one more time, exhale, squeeze, and inhale out. Lace your fingers, hands come all the way up towards the ceiling or sky, and palms up towards the ceiling or sky. So you're gonna flip your palms up again as you are able. In all of these things, if anything I suggest you can't do, for whatever reason, just go ahead and unmute yourself if you want to ask me for an alternative, or find what works for your body if you prefer. So let's go ahead and circle the hands up above the head, almost like you're painting a big circle in the sky above you, on the ceiling above you. And then around in the other direction, nice circle. And then change. And change. Bring your hands to the back of your head, bring your elbows forward and point your elbows down towards the floor or ground or towards your knees a little bit, and then come up, bring the elbows out. Now bring your elbows, curl a little further in towards your mid-thighs, and then come up and open the elbows out. And then in towards your hip bones if you can. So it's really curling the very upper part of your spine. And then up and out. Okay, good. Let's bring the hands to the heart, right on the left side of your chest for a moment. And just check in and see if you can feel your own heartbeat, your own inner rhythm. So this is the organ that we're feeding. And of course, that organ is connected to the heart chakra, for those of you who are in the various yoga traditions. And it's an energy center in Qigong as well, which is here in the center of the chest. And we're going to circle around the heart chakra. So circle all the way around and just warming the thymus gland. So the thymus gland lives right behind the breastbone. And it's the center of your immune system. So particularly given this ongoing pandemic that we've all been dealing with for the last several months, this is a really good thing to do daily for your heart for the summer, but also for your health. And let's go around in the other direction, full circle, all the way around. And change. And then change again. Okay, so now let's place our palms so they're facing one another. And what I'd like you to do is clasp your hands together a couple of times and then rub your hands together so that you create some heat between your palms. Relax those shoulders, cup your hands very lightly, soften your knees if you're standing, and if you're seated, focus on your sits bones. And we're going to just imagine opening up that lower back. So the tailbone is going to hang down as though you had a big kangaroo's tail hanging onto the ground, or your tailbone is connected to the surface that you're sitting on. And you're going to relax those shoulders, and I'd like you to lift the crown of your head up towards the sky and lower your chin so the back of the neck gets a little bit longer. And relax the jaw, relax the space between the eyebrows. And as you inhale, open your hands, and we're just going to open up the space here between the palms. And I'd like you to listen for any sensation between your palms. And as you exhale, bring them in. Now this movement I would like to suggest comes from your breath. So as you inhale, it's the inhale that's going to allow those hands to be pushed apart, almost like you have magnets, opposing magnet energy. And so as you come in, you may feel a little bit of resistance with the palms coming in. That's perfectly natural. A few people might feel like, oh, their hands are being drawn together. That's also perfectly natural. Whatever you feel is right. And as you exhale, bring it in. But you want to just notice what you feel between your palms as you do this movement, inhaling and exhaling. And then we're going to bring the hands in, and we're going to just take a moment, and I'd like you to just circle your hands so it's almost like a little bicycle going forward, right? Your hands are pedals. And as you do this movement, I'd like you to focus on the palms of your hands, what we call the Laogun points. I won't get too specific about where right now, but it's pretty forgiving, these acupressure points. So right in the center of your palms, and go ahead and circle. And then holding together, take a deep breath and feel the space between your shoulders open, inhale. And now as you exhale, take one arm across your chest and turn your palm up towards the ceiling or sky, and the other hand at right in front of the space between your eyebrows, basically your third eye. Okay, so as you inhale, you're gonna bring your hands in and connect the chi here. So it's like you're holding a chi ball. Many of us who've done Qigong know that's a common thing in pretty much all Qigong systems I've encountered at least. So as you exhale, we're going to reach that arm out, and notice that when you do this, that you're turning in your waist, not your hips. So you don't want any torque happening in the knees. The knees are going to stay facing me, stay facing the screen, and you're turning in the waist, which is the axis of your chi. And you're going to imagine now energy coming from the sun and the stars, but particularly the sun, because the summer season and the heart all have to do with time around now, around noon time, at least here in the Bay Area. I recognize that several of you are in very different time zones, from England to France to the East Coast and so forth. And then coming back in, inhale. So exhaling as your hand goes out, and the back of the hand is at the third eye. And then inhale, see if you can feel those hands connect. Exhale, again, the heat from the sun or from the stars, if you're in the evening time, coming down through your palm, circling now. Imagine it circling up your arm, spiraling up to your other hand, which is connected to your third eye. So it's energy or information coming from the sun, going through the heart to inform your mind. Okay, so inhale. So this way we can tap into that sense of greater intelligence that the heaven realm or the sun and stars represent. It's sort of connecting to that, informing it, our hearts, and then our hearts inform our minds. We interpret it however we interpret it. So exhale. It's a good way to connect to that sense of information being available to you, inhale, that doesn't all have to be produced by your own head, right? So it's a sense of really tapping into that greater wisdom. And then inhale. And exhale. And inhale. And exhale. And inhale. So this is part of a longer series of medical Qigong. Today we're just focusing on the heart. But this is something that you could do just daily if you feel like your heart needs to be expanded by that greater intelligence of tapping into a kind of universal consciousness that the heaven realm or the sun and stars represent, which has to do with enlightenment or your own higher power or wisdom or perspective. So inhaling as you come in and exhaling as you go out. Inhale and exhale. And in and out. And then bring your hands back to your chest. And we're going to take a deep breath. And as you exhale, I'd like you to make the sound ha. So deep breath in, exhale. Again, inhale, exhale. This time as you make that sound, see if you can internalize it. So see if you can vibrate the chest and the breastbone and vibrate all the way back to your back between the shoulder blades. So inhale and exhale. And good. Let's open the arms out. Inhale. And then exhale, curl forward. So I'm focusing a lot here in the upper part of the back behind the heart and in front of the heart. When you bring your arms back, of course, you're squeezing your shoulders together and opening up across the chest. Let your clavicles smile. And then as you exhale, we're opening the space between the shoulders and curling forward, releasing any tension behind your back or shoulders. Again, good thing to do if you're spending a lot of time seated or at a screen, looking at a screen. Okay, good. And bring your hands to the lower abdomen and just take a moment to notice whatever you notice. Feel whatever you feel. And then take a wider stance, bring your hands back to your hips and circle those hips all the way around. And then around in the opposite direction. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit, I've been focusing on the chest and the space between the shoulder blades. I want to talk a little bit about that because it's based on this concept of the cobra and the lamb. And the cobra is the backbone of your heart. It's the part of you that has conviction, that has passion, that really cares about whatever it is that you care about, the part of you that's able to really focus. So I often think about a cobra with its hood is spread and it's about to go for its target. It's that type of energy. It's that go for it energy, the part that says, I am committed. I have conviction. I'm committed. I am going for this. The heart has to do with, the lamb, which is the front of the heart, has to do with reciprocity. It has to do with that ability to give and receive, that ability to feel interconnected or that sense of interbeing that Thich Nhat Hanh has talked about, to have that sense of I am part of a whole. If I think about it, if you think when you exhale, you're feeding the plants and the trees and the natural plant life around you, you're feeding it with your CO2, right? And then as those plants breathe that in, they exhale out oxygen. So the trees are sending you oxygen, which you take in. So we're creating this loop of reciprocity with nature through our breath and through really how we feel when we're actually out in nature. There's that sense of, I'm sure that everybody here on this call has felt that, that sense of exchange with sometimes doing nothing more than watching the leaves move on a tree. But there's that sense of give and take back and forth. And so what I'd love to know right now, and just take a moment to write in the chat, we'll work a little bit with this, is what we want to do is we want to balance that part that's targeted, go for it, really committed, with the part that's able to have that lamb, which is also very much about giving and receiving love. So I'd love to, so in some ways it's interesting because some of us were in a retreat work this week with Sharon Strand-Ellison with her work on powerful non-defensive communication. And one of the things she talked about is balancing boundaries and nurturing. So if you, and boundaries being, in this case, the expression, that part, that cobra, the boundaries are the part of who you are, how you express yourself, what is truly you, what is it that you care about the most. So if you would write in the chat, what is your cobra saying and what does your lamb say? So when you think about what you're committed to, and then what is it that you experience in terms of that soft part, the receptive part of the lamb. It's the yang of the heart and the yin of the heart. So go ahead and put that in the chat. Love to see that. Balance in work, rest, writing, and play. Yes, beautiful, Sharon. So please write down anything that you want, anything that resonates for you about that. Don't have to think about it a whole lot. What do you care about, and what is it that you are really feeling like you're drawing in? So it's again, cobra, to share your story to help others heal. Beautiful. And you forget that the lamb represents, CJ, it represents reciprocity, or that sense of what you're taking in from others, what you're breathing in. So cobra, speaking out, B'nai, and connecting in loving relationships, doing anti-oppression works through the cobra, and then the lamb, genuine loving conversations, cobra, crafting your message, wonderful, Connie, and allowing the unfolding of the lamb. Anna, cobra, expressing your truth, the lamb, connecting with nature beings, cobra, speaking up when angry. And how about the lamb, Liz? Beth, be a force for good, always with love. And what is the lamb saying for you, Beth? And Pat, it looks like you can hear me now, yay, being peaceful and connected to others. Yes, beautiful. Claudia, embodying your existence and feeling, noticing, taking in the love that surrounds you. Again, just improvise on this. There's no wrong answer. It's something that you can constantly tweak, but just naming it sometimes is, again, it helps to inform how energy will move in your body. Chris, never give up regardless of feelings, and the lamb is connecting with nature. Pat, holding the vision for unfolding of relationships. Liz, the lamb, being open to others' feelings. Ah, yes, that is a wonderful way to think about that reciprocity. Suzanne, so good to see you. Balancing what I can give to others with what you give yourself, which is resting. And that's the balancing that is the main key. Cobra, for Sharon, creates sustainable change, and your lamb says also imperative focus on your own family, friends, and joy. It's so true. I think that's such a call to balance for so many of us right now. And I know in your work, you do that and more. Laura, allowing my voice to express, giving gratitude. Betty Ann, cobra, people know my message about the power of their words now. And lamb, open, expressing yourself in loving conversations. That's beautiful. Rosie, cobra, cleansing space. I love reading these because I think partly I'm doing it for the sake of the people who just can watch the recording, and part of it because for me, I know it generates, oh yeah, that's me too, and that's me too. It helps open up even more of what the meaning can be. So Rosie, cleansing space creation, and the lamb is gentle self-care. Jen, giving your passion. Lamb, surrendering to receiving the well of love. Roya, cobra, healing and growth. The lamb is trust. Helen, cobra, committing to getting fit in nature, hiking, backpacking, and healing in nature to challenge yourself. Wonderful, great affirmation. Fred, cobra, speaking for hope and justice, and lamb is sensitivity to our inner connection. CJ, supporting others as they begin to awaken and receive the feelings of satisfaction that one more person got it. Yeah, joy. Cobra, engaging with others, expressing what I know for sure, and listening to others' point of view, and then the lamb is receiving love and prosperity. Yes, for love and prosperity. Eileen, communicate more frequently, listen earnestly. Wonderful. That is both yang and yin. I love that. Cobra from Catherine, what I will commit to in response to what the world needs now, and lamb is trusting my intuition. Again, these are just so brilliant. I love how you're interpreting what I said. And so let's do a little bit taken from the lotus form, lotus balancing. And Sherry, I'm going to assume that you've gotten in all of these people who are re-entered the waiting list, maybe got kicked off for a moment. So lotus balance. It's going to stand again with your feet hip distance apart, or if you're seated in a chair, please feel free to stay seated in the chair. And if you're not able, of course, that's what you're doing. Hands on your belly, and we're going to just bounce for one moment. Just get a little bit of energy going in that lower dantian, and hear what you said or wrote. And if you didn't speak, just hear what is there for you to know. So if it's an internal process and you need to hold boundaries about that or not speak about it, that's of course fine. As long as you can name it for yourself, it will have, like I said, a little more meaning. And then relax, connect your sits bones down, towards your heels if you're standing, tailbone hanging onto the ground. Okay, and we're doing this lotus balancing. So you're gonna balance the cobra and the lamb. So one hand is about hip level, the other hand is shoulder level, and we're just bringing one hand down as the other hand comes up. So in the form, an actual walking form of the lotus, what you're doing is when you bring your hand up, is you're bringing forward from your heart whatever it is that you're wanting to offer to the world now, and that's being informed by the heaven realm, right? So as your hand comes up, it's connecting to the rays of the heavens. So bringing energy from the heavens down to earth, and bringing energy from the earth up to heaven. And this is a particularly vibrant during the summer. That's what we're doing. This is a time, they say in the Chinese lexicon or some of the traditions, that where heaven comes down to earth, earth comes up to heaven. And in other traditions, they say that is our work as human beings, is to be a channel, to bring our inspiration, our vision, the things that we imagine to be real, the radical imaginings that are happening now, bringing them into being, taking steps to make those happen, and at the same time taking what's under the surface and bringing it up to the light. So isn't that so appropriate? It seems so appropriate to me for events that are happening globally, particularly instigated in some ways by the inner gifts of the pandemic as well as the challenges of it. So as we do this movement, you want to feel like your palms are checking in with the weight of the air around you. So you might feel a certain sense of pressure going down or up. And then I'd like you to also focus on the tips of your middle fingers and see if you, as you do the movement, if you can feel the currents of air moving. Just gently moving up and down, and it's almost like you're stroking a material like corduroy. So your fingertips just tuning in to what do those fingertips feel as currents of air move around you. So the weight of the air in the palms, the texture of the air with your fingertips. And then I'd like you to also feel like there's energy going down one side of your back as your hand descends, and going up on the other side of your back as your hand comes up. So going up and down with this balancing. Bring your hands to your lower dantian for a moment. Tune in to your cobra and your lamb. So whether you want to focus on what you wrote in the chat or didn't write in the chat, or whether you want to listen right now to what's happening in your back, between your shoulder blades, and in your chest, in front of your chest, tune into that. Just take a moment to breathe. And the yang of the heart, reaching up towards the heavens. The yin of the heart, grounding down towards the earth. Bring your hands forward. And again, we'll just balance those two concepts of that passion and expression with that sense of receiving and experiencing reciprocity. Okay, good. Bring your hands back to your chest. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is ask you to write in the chat this. I'll give you the beginning of a sentence and then you just fill in the dots. I can best express what matters to me, what's important to me when I. So the next piece of this heart, because it's part of the human realm, and the human realm is all about how we take inspiration and how we express it in the world. And so the heart here in the lotus time, summertime, is all about self-expression and what we name for ourselves and for one another. So I can best express what's important to me when I can best express what is important to me when and then just fill in the blank on the chat, because I'd love to hear what the different modes of expression are. So go ahead and write that, and I'll go ahead and open up my chat so I can see what you say. Love, love in action. Nice, Connie. I can best express what's important when you feel supported. And what is it that you want to, what is it that you express when you feel supported? So let's add one more thing. I'm moving like in Qigong. I'm totally present in the moment. Listening to others and yourself, Rosie. Connecting with your feelings and accepting them. Such an imperative piece, Liz, that acceptance, self-acceptance. Trusting and telling your truth, Suzanne. Giving yourself time to speak out and listen in stillness and writing. Yes, Marcia. Such a brilliant writer that you are too. Benet, I can best speak out when I join with others. Beth, when you quiet your mind and let your heart permeate all you do. Best express what's important to you when you speak, Claudia. That, for me, it's the best express it, I think, when I write. A lot of times I write to find out what I think. It's, I love that. Fred, cultivate openness of heart and throat to confidently speak. Helen, it's loving environment, whether it's with others who love me and support me, and I can support, or from within yourself. Nice. I can best express what's important to me when I'm in the writing space of loving and sharing, CJ, with your beautiful books. Jen, when I listen deeply and act on the discerned truth in what I'm expressing and creating. Phyllis, connected to your intuition and guidance, which you do so brilliantly for yourself and your clients. Chris, I can best express what's important to me when I speak what's true for me and take up space. Anna, when you're present with yourself and take time for solitude and nature. Very, very beautiful. When I'm not feeling trusting and I'll be there for somebody. Writing poetry, Dorothy, I love that. Connecting with others without expectation and staying present. Inspired and opened by music. Singing speaks for all. There we have some great minds thinking alike. Showing up, holding space, and accepting the totality of yourself and others. And Connie, I know how beautifully you work that. And Patricia, when you're painting, wonderful. I love that arts are coming in here. When you're inspired, Roya. Okay, so beautiful. Thank you so much. And then you can keep writing it if you didn't quite get it in yet. But what I'd like to work on next is, so this is how we can best express ourselves. And there's some of you wrote what that expression is. Teaching and coaching, Joy, and others of you wrote about the environment that helps stimulate the possibility for expression, and many of you wrote about arts. And what I want to move into next is another piece of the Lotus form. And again, unfortunately, I don't have time to teach the whole Lotus. The Lotus takes a long time to learn, so I'll talk later about how you can learn more of it. But for right now, I want to just draw from it, because I want to give you practices, whether you ever continue to work with me or not, that you have a chance to really use these practices. So one of them would be circling your hands on your heart. Another would be the Lotus balance. And this one is Lotus resistance. So this is for when you, it's called Lotus push. It's not called Lotus resistance, but it's that part of ourselves. There's always a pushback, right? When we expand our energy, there's always going to be some kind of pushback. So it's looking at how do we work with resistance either within ourselves or maybe with the crazy makers in our lives, when we're getting a lot of no's from different people, maybe in our families or in our communities. You can't do that, that kind of thing. Or your own inner thing, your own inner self-doubt, where we have this sense of wanting to express ourselves and then something blocks it. And again, it can seem to come from outside or from inside or from how we interpret what's coming from outside. So this is something to help unblock that flow, because in Chinese medicine, all disease, all problems, whether they're emotional, physical, or even spiritual, come from some stagnation somewhere. So we want to be able to work with that stagnation and break it open. So you're going to, again, stand with your feet apart.
So the lotus is a standing form that ends up with walking, where you end up walking your talk. Right now we're going to just do one of the standing pieces. Those of you in the Wave Joy community are familiar with all of these, I know. And you're going to bring your hands so that your left hand and your right hand are touching. I'm going to take the left hand and you're going to push it into the right hand, and the right hand's going to resist. So you're going to create a little bit of an isometric here. You lower your hands down to about solar plexus or even lower belly area, depending on what's comfortable for your arms. And again, if you have arms on the chair, if you're seated. So you're going to move with your left hand and push it into the right hand, and the right hand is going to resist. So if I were to look at you, I would want to look and see if I could see your biceps popping. And we're going to take that left hand, and the left hand's going to dive down. So it's like going down into the depth of, you could think of it as the underworld or the unconscious, the part of ourselves that can be running us without our even knowing it. And the right hand's going to come up, fingers are going to go up towards the sky. So the right hand is going to push and the left hand's going to resist. Now, I want to be sure, especially for those of us standing, that you don't turn your hips. Again, you want to keep those knees safe. So we're moving again from the waist, that's the axis of the chi. So we have the right hand, and at the outside edge here, I won't get into the specific points today, but the outside hand is going right into the palm of the hand, and you're going to push hard and you're going to resist hard. So it's like, I want to do this. No, you can't. That kind of thing. So one hand is pushing, the other hand is resisting, and I want you to really feel that. Feel that in your muscles. And then reverse, so the other hand is pushing. So this is really referencing the ways in which when there is conflict, there can be this struggle for domination. One side needs to win, which means the other one needs to lose. We're working with how power works here, how in terms of old paradigm of power over as opposed to power within. And as one hand pushes and the other one resists, you're going to just lift the crown of your head, cast your eyes down, not by dropping your head, but by just looking down and watching as one hand pushes the other. So what we're working with here is this ability to cultivate our neutral or well, your neutral and compassionate observer self. I think of it as the part of yourself that's detached from the emotions, the detached observer self, looking down and watching, and at the same time, you want the hands to really act this out. So you want to feel something literally in your muscles. At the same time, the upper part of your body, from your neck and your head, are cool and observing, loving, connected, but not in the muck of it. So you want to have a sense here again, pushing, one hand pushes, the other resists. Your arms should be getting tired by now, right? This is a little bit, again, of an isometric. And you're watching, your eyes are cast down and you're saying, oh yeah, here it is. There's that struggle between these two parts of myself, or between myself and one another, if you're caught up in a power struggle, and to let yourself feel the pain of that, or at least the tension of it, if it's not pain, to just let yourself know, there it is, I recognize it. And it's a way to begin to cultivate a body memory to recognize when you're in that situation and you're not necessarily practicing your Qigong, okay? So then the right hand's gonna push on the left. So the right hand's pushing on the left, and then the hands are gonna come up on the high diagonal onto the left. At some point, these two parts that are struggling back and forth, realize there's an interconnection. They're part of a whole, one whole, like the yin-yang symbol. And the left hand is going to turn, and the back of the hand goes into the palm of the right hand. Okay? So that they all of a sudden realize they are interconnected, they are one. And at that point, there's a release of the struggle from between the shoulder blades out. So from the cobra out, there's this release. And then the hands come down to your lower abdomen. And what it says in the form is this, at this point, you're impregnating yourself. It is a tantric form. You're impregnating yourself with the seeds of your own destiny. So when we release that struggle, then we're connecting to who we're really meant to be. If we think, if you're somebody who believes in past incarnations, whatever it is that you agreed to when you came into this body or this incarnation now. If you don't believe that, that's fine, but it's all to do with who you really know yourself to be, that core essence, your soul essence of who you are. Okay, let's do that one more time. Left hand's gonna push into the right. So looking down, I just do it a few times. Keep your crown lifted up towards the sky, eyes are cast down, you're connecting to your observer self. At the same time, you're not blocking the feelings and the emotions that come with the struggle. As one hand starts to try to dominate, it's really pushing, the other one's pushing back, and then the other one does. One hand pushes, other hand resists. Then we're going to bring it up to the left, which is the heart side of your body, of course. Turn the left hand so that the back of the hand is nestled in the palm. And then for between your shoulders, let a little bit of an undulation, release that tension. And again, connect with your source, with the inner part of you that is consistent and true to who you know you're to be. Okay, so this is something that I encourage you to work with, especially if you're about to engage with somebody that you've been in a struggle with. And it's not like you have to just pretend or even rise above. That's what this whole thing is about, is letting yourself feel it, but at the same time recognizing from a meta place that this is all part of one whole. There may be something in your own past that you're working through. There may be something that has been a constant challenge for you that you really want to work through, and to begin to embrace that and release the tension of it so that you can come back to your own sense of wholeness. So again, we're going to be circling your hands over your head, over your heart for a few times, and then around the other direction. And again, this stimulates the thymus gland, always a good thing to do in any time, but particularly during this time where health is being challenged or threatened in such concrete ways. And that's the one, that the lotus balancing the cobra and the lamb, and saying I can have reciprocity at the same time I stay true to my own convictions. And then finally going into this pushing, one hand pushes, and then the other hand pushes. And you can do this movement back and forth, I don't know, 3 to 9 times, something like this. Whenever you feel done, you can turn the left hand into the right, release, and come to your belly. Now this next piece that I want to work with is, so we've planted the seed. So we're just thinking of the seed is still in that muck, right? In this underworld. So in the Qigong lexicon, the neck and head, 3 feet above the head are considered the heaven realm. And then the neck down to the belly button is considered to be the human realm. And then the hips, legs, 3 feet into the earth is the earth realm. And the earth realm is all about what's underneath the surface, that unconscious part I was talking about before. So what you want to do here is you want to have a sense that you planted the seed, coming back to your true self. And then the palms turn up towards the ceiling, so that the hands turn up. And the hands are going to come up through the center line of your body. So that stem from the seed is coming up through. So those of you who are the spring one, you can see that there's a little bit of an echo here of the blossom and the spring work that we did. And the hands here now are at the heart level, and then the fingers come down and the backs of the hands are together. I'm going to come a little closer to you so you can see this more clearly. And then what happens is there's an unfurling of a birthing of this lotus flower, this aspect of ourself that's able to transpose our own muck, how we can turn our, I'll use the polite word waste into fertilizer, but you know what I mean. How we can take those lessons that are hard and turn them into growth for ourselves. That's what this moment is we're saying, okay, we've drawn this up, we've brought it up to the heart, and then the left thumb comes forward and the fingers unfurl, one finger at a time. Let's see if I can turn this way, I think it's easier to see. And then the little finger of the right hand connects to the little finger of the left, and it continues to unfurl one finger at a time. Let's do that again. Backs of the hands together, left thumb unfurls, and the right continues that movement. And then there's a moment where we join the mind. So the hands come together at the third eye, and then the heart. So joining together the mind, heart as one. And then there's the bud of the lotus itself, right? So all of that energy was about creating this bud of the lotus. And then the elbows are going to press together, and there's a fair amount of pressure again as the elbows come together. The hands come up and they open, and then little finger starts. We're going to unfurl one petal at a time. Those hands open out, and then they open out into full blossom. Okay, so what I just did, I know is fairly complicated, but let's just try it again for the sake of experiencing it. You don't need to remember this. I'll be sending you the recording so you can play with it if you'd like to. The main things I still want you to do are the heart center, the lotus balancing, the lotus push, and we'll be doing one more thing after this. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of the transition of how this happens so that the seed of who you are is sort of dropped into that swamp, right, where the lotus is born, this beautiful, fragrant flower that has the ability to transpose all of the stuff that's in that underground and bring it up to a sense of consciousness and awareness, and also compassion for self and for all humans, or all beings, even not even just human beings, but all beings. So the palms turn up and the hands come up to the heart. So we have a stem rising up out of the water. Okay, and then the backs of the hands come together, and then start with the left thumb comes all the way out, and then the right little finger follows it. So again, just for your, to be able to see this more clearly, left thumb and the hand unfurls, little finger and the hand unfurls. Okay, so one more time, left thumb, little finger connects to the other little finger, and one finger at a time unfurls, connecting the mind with the heart and forming a bud. And then the elbows are going to come together, press them together, the hands come all the way up. And it's almost like what you're doing here is coming, the lotus is pushing all the way up, and then it opens out, and one finger at a time unfurls each petal. And in the 1,000-petaled lotus is a symbol, so imagine 1,000 petals, even though we only have 10 fingers. And then we're going to open that out all the way out into full blossom. And bring your hands to your heart. Take a deep breath. And exhale, release. Okay, so let me stop for a moment, ask how you're doing. If you have any questions about anything, I know I've given a lot of information, so if there's any question you have or any thought, let me know how you're either feeling, what you're thinking, or any questions. Okay, so let's take a moment. And write in the chat. Questions or comments? And get a sip of water if you want. Does it matter which hand's on top when this section starts? Good question, Connie. So when you do the wave, the right hand is on top of your left hand, so your hands come into the belly, so the right hand's on top. So yes, it does matter, and that's the one. Good, grounded, good, Pat. Energy moving in your legs, excellent. Good, I'm glad, CJ. Yeah, I know, Catherine, it's not common for some of the Qigong. There's certain iron Qigong that has a fair amount of working with that type of resistance and pressure, but it's powerful. It's, there's that childbirthing technique where you tense muscle and then you release it that people do when they're preparing for childbirth. It's the same kind of idea, that there's a sense of pressure that opens up the relief. Any other questions, comments, or feedback? Trying to stay focused. Let's see. You forget the rule about when the right and left should be on top. Right hand here, and where is the left on top? I think you're asking about this moment where you come into the destiny. The right hand is on top, is over the left hand. So the left hand's on the belly, and the right hand's on top of the left hand.
Trying to stay focused on your intention while doing the form and find that your mind will wander. So that's a challenge for you, I'm thinking, is what you're saying, Joy. So that's okay. If your mind wanders, just pull it back again. It's like any meditation technique. Our minds are, very, they're childlike. So you want to bring them back, comfortably bring it back to, oh yes, this is what I'm doing. And the more you can do that, the more, and you don't need to think about it. At some point, you'll just do the form and the form itself will carry it. So you don't need to be thinking about it the whole time. This felt good as a moving meditation possibility, and you'll use this in one of your daily sessions. Wonderful, Eileen, I'm so glad. Good, bringing consciousness and anchor in the body, good. Naomi, I don't understand the first, I don't know what those letters mean, you for good. So you're gonna have to retype that. Laura, one petal at a time, that's right, because we can't go into this. This is about coming into enlightenment, so it is one step at a time. So you don't understand the unfurling, Naomi. So I'm not sure what you don't understand. If you need to talk more about what is it that you don't understand, and that maybe I'll be able to answer that question. Okay, so I think I want to go ahead unless anybody else has a question or a comment. I'd love to get you to understand, to support you to understand as much as I can. Yes, I know, right, Suzanne? It does put a lot of different muscles into play. You'd never think it when you look at it. It looks so simple, but that's what I love about a lot of the Qigong forms that I've had the opportunity to play with, is that they are actually go pretty deep on different levels: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. Anybody else? Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you, and go ahead and put the question about the unfurling if you want to, Naomi, and lots of cobra activity. Ooh, that sounds exciting. So that's a lot of passion coming through right now then, or a lot of commitment coming through, Connie. So let's go ahead and put the hands on the heart. All right. So when you say pain, Connie, be sure that your shoulder blades go down in the back, and that when you do any of this, that you are not straining. So if you need to back off the pressure, that's completely fine. You don't want to put anything extra, especially given your physical issues. You don't want to put any extra pressure in your neck or upper back or shoulders. So hands on the heart, and I'd like you to take a moment to breathe into your heart. And if you were to think about walking out, we have another a little over 20 minutes together. If you were to think about what you want to carry out of this out of this practice, what is the energy that you want to emanate from your heart? What would that be? So if you were to think, okay, I've done this push, I'm letting go of resistance, I've balanced things, I've connected to my heart. What is the quality of the heart energy that you feel like you want to emanate? What is it that you feel like is important? Is it peacefulness? Is it love? Is it compassion? Is it connection? Is it commitment? Is it what it can be anything. So love and peace from CJ. And we can, of course, be the same thing. Joy for Anna. Yes, wonderful. Abundant connection from Rosie. Grace from Laura, grounded, alert, compassion from Sherry. Love and peace from Roya. Embracing pain so you can unlearn it and move forward. Such a big lesson, Connie. And it's truly the work of the lotus. It's truly the work of the lotus is to be present with that pain and unlearn it and move forward. I love how you say that. Vinay, hope, joy, connection, love and compassion from Helen. Compassion and trust from Marcia, acceptance from Beth. And if you're watching this recording, I really would like you to, even though you can't be obviously on this live chat, write it down or let yourself really name it out loud so that you really own it, because we're going to work with it in just a second. Love and compassion from Phyllis. Anybody else? What your heart, what it is that you want to express from the heart. Mindful on purpose, seeing clearly what is and is not needed, and releasing what's not needed. Yes, I think that's a really important discernment there, Fred. Deep connection coming from Christina. Anybody else? What is it that, especially if you haven't written anything else, maybe you would check in here. Let us know. what your heart is saying it wants to emanate as we finish our time together. Still peace grows. Recognize the humanity in every person. Truth, Liz. The humanity in every person, Sharon. And Suzanne, still peace grows. Anybody else, go ahead and do it if you would, and then we'll just go ahead and start moving into a movement for it. Okay, so I'm gonna bring your feet again hip distance apart. So we're again doing the same thing that we have been doing all along, which is a parallel position, feet hip distance apart if you're standing. If you're seated, make sure that your knees are, if you can, if you're able, knees are going forward so that you have parallel legs. If you can't, you just adapt however you can, and it's still gonna move your chi, so I'm not worried about it. So hands on the belly, drop down. Let's one more time coming up through here. So we had the right, we did this wave, we had the right hand on the top of the left, and then the hands are going to turn up, coming up. And Naomi, you never asked about this unfurling, so I'm just going to go ahead and show again. Left thumb comes out, right hand comes after. So this is the unfurling of the intention of that seed in your lower abdomen, joining the mind and the heart and creating this bud. Elbows come together. This is a birthing process, and this is birthing up and through the upper chakras. So it's very goddess-like. And the arms, the hands come apart and unfurl through the fingers, one finger at a time. So this is the different petals, 1,000-petal lotus, opening the different ways in which your compassion, your heart can show itself thousands of times, and then open out into this full blossom, very similar again to the blossom in the spring work that we did in the spring. I'm going to again connect those sits bones. Shoulders are down. Breathe. You're going to take your right hand and you're going to turn the right hand, and it's like you're wafting the energy of that affirmation that you need around you over to one side and then over to the other side. And I'd like you just to soft focus in your eyes. Shoulders are relaxed. And I want to see if we can imagine from the heart all the way out through the fingertips, especially the tips of the middle fingers, emanating out this energy. Don't forget to breathe. So you're imagining that you're wafting this energy as though it was burning away the mists on the pond. So this fragrance is floating out. And the mists on the pond are a metaphor for projections, right? The ways in which we might project something that's not really true for us, right? Or it could be projections of other people put on us, or how they interpret us or misinterpret us. So burning away the projections. Here we're coming into that place of vulnerable strength that I mentioned at the beginning of our time together. So breathing, easy breathing back and forth as you go, extending that energy out. And out. So if it's peace, I heard peace and love and compassion were a lot of the words, and being able to discern what you want from what you don't want. There are all kinds of different things, as you said, emanating that out, and just imagining that you're in that place. And then you're going to put your hands on your heart and breathe. And you just open space around you with that wafting movement. I'd like you just to take one step forward and step into the energy of the lotus. So you're stepping in, moving yourself forward into it. Relax your jaw, relax the space between your eyebrows. And then bring your hands back down to the lower dantian. So I'm going to go over some of these practices again in a moment. But before I do, I want you to know again that this is a walking form. There's definitely many different pieces. I've shown you some of it, given you some of the meaning of it. But like I said, in this amount of time, I can't do as much as I could do in a longer time together. So some of you have been part of these different 4-week programs that I've had, 4-week practice series that I've had. And I'm going to do another one this time based on the Qigong from the heart and for the heart. That's going to be coming up a week from Tuesday. I'm going to start again at the same time that we've been meeting, Tuesdays from, I think it's, 12:15 to 1, I think is what it is. Anyway, it's, this is a time where I'll be taking some of these practices, and then I'm going to be teaching the longer form, excuse me, of the lotus as well. So the purpose of it is really designed to ground us and the energy during our volatile times, so that we can feel clear and calm regardless of what might be happening around us or even inside of us, as this blossoming is happening, as our hearts are being called into play to really show up in new and different ways. These practices are helping to ground. We will keep practicing some of the ones we've started in other series called Eye of the Storm and some other things, to help that sense of being able to be in relationship with what's happening. So one of the central themes of the way of Joy Qigong is something that I call boundaries dissolve barriers. And the idea is that when we have healthy boundaries, that's how we actually connect with others, right? So if we don't have boundaries, we either merge and go, well, what do you want to do? I don't know, what do you, or we merge and we lose ourselves, or we end up creating barriers where it's like, oh, I need space, or I can't deal with that, or this person, I don't agree with that person, so I need to push. It's a way of being able to name your boundaries in a really clear way, coming from it. This is the energetic piece of that, so that you can stay connected, you can stay in relationship with the world around you. It's not about going up to the mountaintop and then just being in your own self. It's taking that mountaintop and being in your own self in relationship. So it's always about that interchange, that reciprocity that's part of the Lamb. So we'll be working with some of those concepts of boundaries also during these next 4 weeks. Working to nourish your life force. I wrote some notes because I want to be sure to say everything I was thinking. Nourish your life force to keep you strong for the long haul. So I think, I truly believe that between what's happening socially, culturally, and what's happening with dealing with a pandemic, which may be the first of many, we don't even know, that as we sort of dealing with this big transition that we're finding ourselves in, this life force shift that we're finding ourselves in, that this is not, that we're not talking about quick changes here. We're talking about sustainability and being able to sustain our energy in a way that we can continue to show up as our best self. So these practices will help nourish your chi to keep us strong for the long haul. Yes, Helen, I think I saw you ask about the recording. Let me just see what you said. Yes, you can join it, and I'll be recording all of those, and you'll be able to join it that way. You'll be able to practice with me that way. The other thing is that it helps these practices are designed to also reduce the stress. So there's so many stressors on us and so many things that we're grappling with. It's about being able to work with that stress, and that's a real key to building your immune system, or enhancing your immune system, so that your immune system stays intact as we are dealing with things that might make us tired or overwhelmed or any of that. The other thing that I think the Lotus does is it helps us break through blocks, so that we can really get things done. So it sort of helps us move through what may have been pushing. The Lotus back and forth is the Lotus push that we did is one example of that. And finally, I think that one thing that happens in these classes that I've been really delighted about is that you can feel like you're connected to others, that we're building a chi field together. That's what we're doing here today. So as we do these moves, I don't know if you can feel it, but I certainly can, that as we do these moves together and we're all working on our own inner part of how we're moving chi in ourselves, it's emanating out, and there's an intermingling of that. Whether you're watching the recording or listening to this live, there's a way in which we are connected to one another through the chi field. And as we build that chi field, it's one of those all boats rise type of metaphors. I think it helps emanate out on a prayer field, on a chi field. So the cost for the 4-week series is the same as
I think I had a little bit of cheese last night, so this is coming up and punishing me now. I can't really do cheese. But anyway, the cost is going to be the same as it always is. So for 4 weeks, it's $68, and that includes the recordings for every single class. So if you can't come live, you can certainly watch the class, and I think you'll still get some benefit from that. If you sign up by Sunday night, I'd like to offer you just a little bit of a discount just to thank you for being here live with me today. You can save $10 that way. And just when you sign up, I think Sherry has put the link on the chat. Enter the coupon code SUMMER10, SUMMER10, all caps, SUMMER10, and that'll give you a $10 discount off of it. So it'll be $58 instead of $60. But for those of you who are part of the Way of Joy community, the membership of the community, you're getting a membership only price, so you'll save even more. So do keep an eye out for that email. There's always benefits to being in the member community. So I hope you join me for those 4 weeks. We're not starting this Tuesday. I'm needing to take a little bit of break for a couple of reasons, but we'll be doing it the following Tuesday, and we'll be working again with some of the things that we did today, but of course more. And I am going to try to break down the form. It's the first time I'm going to try to break down a form as complicated as the Lotus and teach it in those 4 weeks. So you'll have a chance to practice it on your own. And you can, I was doing some Qigong teaching this past week at a retreat, and a lot of people were actually working outside. So maybe you can take your iPad outside during the middle of the day and allow that sun to continue to inform the movement itself. Okay, so let's do a quick review. Unless there's any questions, I'll just double check to see if there's any questions. I think Sherry, Sherry, thank you so much, has been assisting me by posting this information and answers. Yes, the space can be similar to today. And so let's go ahead and review. I'm assuming that there's no more questions about anything that we've done so far, the moves themselves. So if there are, be sure to ask it, because you've got 9 minutes before we actually close officially, and I'd love for you to use it. So whether you join me for the 4 weeks or not, please do some of these things if you can. You can do them, you know, if you do a little series like this, you could do a series in maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And if you could just incorporate that into your day, it means that you're linking your own energy field with the energy of nature that's happening around us. So with the summer and the blossoming, you're taking this expression that you've been affirming today, and you're allowing that to resonate out ripple out in the Wei Qi field, the Wei Qi being the outer expression of your energy. All right, so let's go ahead and do this little review. Hands on the heart, and we're going to circle the heart around. And I think I'd like to include the medical Qigong in this little bit of a review, just so that you have a chance to do that as well. Maybe incorporate that, or any of the things. So you might want to do all of them. You may just resonate with one thing. Do whatever you do, but I encourage you, again, whether you work with me in the future or not, please do some Qigong to help sustain you during these transitional, transformative times. Let's circle around in the other direction. And then bring your hands, and we're going to open space for a moment, inhaling and exhale. We'll just do this 3 times. Inhaling between the shoulders across the chest, and exhaling. One more time. Inhale and exhale. And now we're going to take the arm across the chest, going into the medical Qigong. Remember, the hips stay facing forward, palm is turned up, back of the hand in front of the third eye, and then inhale, coming center. And exhale, and inhale. Exhale, receiving energy from in the palm, from the heavens, spiraling up to your third eye, allowing that wisdom of the heavens to filter through your heart so that it becomes personal, and then inform your mind. And a couple more times in each direction, out and in and out and in. Out and in. Every time you come through the center, connect your palms energetically in the same way you did when you rubbed your hands together earlier. I want to see if you can just tune into that heat and warmth between your palms. Okay, good. Then bring your hands down in front of you, and we're going to go ahead and go into lotus balancing, balancing the cobra and the lamb. You can also use this form when you feel like you're needing to balance anything that feels like you're doing too much and you're not spending enough time just being and breathing. For example, you can balance doing and being. You can balance giving and receiving. You can balance heaven and earth. You can balance anything. So if you find yourself feeling out of balance, this is a great one to do. Let me remind you of the stance as we continue to move. So if you're standing, you want to have a sense of your tailbone hanging down like a kangaroo tail down to the ground. And the other day I realized I had another metaphor. So we've got the kangaroo tail, but I want a giraffe neck. So the back of the neck lengthens. And when we lengthen the back of the neck, it's not the chin. You don't want to crunch your neck back, but rather have your chin going on a diagonal towards the upper back of your head. Since your giraffe neck, kangaroo tail helps to elongate and allow our head to be in the heaven realm where we receive inspiration and perspective, and the hips and legs and feet to be into the earth realm, the tailbone dropping down into the earth realm, where this is where we take action, where we walk our talk. So being able to have that inspiration come through us into action, and having the action come through us into inspiration. So this is what we're balancing, these two aspects, yin and yang, the yang of the heaven, the yin of the earth. And good. Bring your hands to your lower dantian for a moment. Now in the form, we're going to be working, if you work with the next 4 weeks, we're working with ways in which we're balancing fire and water and working with the primordial forces of the wind. So we're not going to be doing that today, but what I'd like to do is go right into the lotus push. So we've got the left hand push, starting with the left hand in the right, just right in front of your solar plexus or belly. Again, giraffe neck, kangaroo tail. I kind of love having those two animals together in my brain. Anyway, I'm going to go to the right first. So you go to your right. I don't know if I'm mirrored or not right now. So you go to your right, and then the fingers go down, and then the right hand comes up, and we're going to push. And again, keep that head high. So the head and neck and the eyes are cast down. We're in that neutral observer. This is a very Kuan Yin type of move. I think of it as a Kuan Yin type of move where she's got compassion for the struggle that's happening below. At the same time, she has this sense of spiritual awareness, observation, detachment, neutrality in the face of this struggle. So it's that combination of neutrality and compassion. One hand pushing, the other resisting. And again, I want to see your muscles pop. So I want this to be a true isometric. And that's where, as Suzanne said, we're ending up using muscles that you would never guess looking at this. So your muscles are working in your back, even in your legs, to keep your hips facing forward if you're standing. And then, of course, in your arms and back. Okay, let me just do this one more time in each direction. Exhaling, pushing, and then other side. And then the back of the hand comes into the palm of the right hand. There's a wave of energy. And then I'm going to go right into the lotus wafting, which is what I would like you to include in your practice, and if you're just using today's work. And we're going to go first to the right and then the left. And as you do this movement, again, I'd love it if you would just think of sending out that intention or that prayer. This is where we're connecting through our roots, and your roots down into the earth are intermingling with everybody else on this call, as well as all those that we want to feel connected to, as well as those we might not even know that we're connected to, right? The 6 degrees separation. And we're connected through our roots, just like the roots of trees talk to each other across the globe. And we're also wafting this energy in our Wei Qi field, our external energy field. So we're building the Qi field together here. This is a commonality, or a sense of interconnection among us, a sense of interbeing among us and among the natural world. Around one more time. And then just bring your hands to your heart. Take a moment to feed your heart. And then I'm going to ask, tap into your chest anything useful from our time together. Tap yourself on the back for spending this hour and a half with some self-nurturing. Coming down one arm and up underneath your lymphs here, and then into your chest. And then other side, coming down and up underneath your armpit and chest, and then tapping down to your belly, and then outsides of your legs, and coming up on the insides of your legs, and then lower back here, just tapping as high as you can. If you can reach your kidneys, then do that. If you can't, don't worry about it. Tops of the shoulders, back of the neck, behind your ears, and then all the way up to the top of your head. Clap, rub, and then come down and up and out and splash yourself. And let's splash one another with this chi field we just created. And thank you all so much for joining me today. I will stay on the line a little bit longer for any other questions or thoughts or comments that you want, but we have officially reached the end of our time. So thank you again for being here, and until next time, be well and let the chi flow. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Vicki.
You're welcome, Sharon.